Hello there, viewers. I am your German snob, and I welcome you all back to walk the path with me once more. And also, once more, we will venture into the deep forest to see whatever lies within for our new protagonist. Her name is Ruby, and she is 15 years old. So that makes her the third oldest among her sisters. And well, let's see what lays ahead for her. So far, it has turned out that the forest is somewhat different for all of our heroines. I guess you could say, yeah. Though much more so than the forest itself will be Grandmother's shack, which of course we will reach in due time. But for now, let's explore. As we see now, all that lays ahead is, well, the forest itself. And ever-present, the girl in white. There seems to be something in a tree stump stuck, with a ray of sunlight illuminating it. It's what appears to be a knife. So, maybe we can pick it up? Yes, it would seem like we can. We don't really know what the significance of the knife is. Cut my veins and make me bleed. A valley or an ocean. Desire or need. And I think it is pretty clear that many people have a need to hurt themselves, often by cutting themselves. And frankly, I do think that Ruby seems rather like the kind of person to do so. Of course, without wanting to conform to any stereotypes here. So what do we have here? A gramophone. Can we interact? No, actually, well, or what appears to be one, yes. Can we pick it up? I think we can. Or at very least we can pick up the disc laying next to it. I prefer my music engraved in black. And to be perfectly honest, I know many people who do. It would seem like over the last few years vinyl has kinda come back in style. And excuse me for a moment, I think the music is slightly too loud, which you might have noticed is somewhat of a recurring theme in my videos. But yeah, as I said, there are many people nowadays who prefer music on vinyl than, well, on compact disc. Which is why LPs have made sort of a comeback. Personally, I don't know if it's really a difference of quality or just nostalgia. But, well, maybe I'm not the one to think about that. So how about the tree? It looks rather noteworthy, but, well, once again it's someone else to come back to it and maybe interact with it. That well, however, might be a different matter if you're lucky. How about it? No, that one belongs to someone else as well. So what else is there for Ruby? Plenty of things I'm sure that we will sooner or later happen upon. Right now we don't really have any specific goal. Just pick up whatever we can find. Following vague outlines in the mist. Sometimes that seems to be all you can do. So what do we have here? Is that the lake that we've been to with, who was it, Rose, I think? Yes, I'm pretty sure actually, where we met that apparition. But if that is Rose's lake, oh sorry. Now this is what I call nice weather. All we need is a bit of rain and some lightning. Well, if that is what you enjoy, and I'm sure there are people who do. However, rain and lightning is something that I prefer to experience, well, indoors, certainly. I wouldn't really like to be out in the woods during a thunderstorm, and I reckon that very few people would. But maybe Ruby thinks differently about these things. It would appear so. As you can probably tell, I can't run right now. Not that I would have any reason to do so, but... one would think that it somewhat hinders our progress. So let's see if we have to move farther away from the lake to be able to do so. Can't be much farther. Certainly not. You know, I've been giving the kind of game that this is some thought over, well, over the last few weeks. You know, what is usually called a walking simulator. And I'm very well aware that there are a lot of people who don't really see much appeal in that kind of game. And I think a common complaint leveled against it is that they are not really video games, as there is no real objective, no real challenge to be overcome. And, hey, is that something? It would seem that way. Yes, it is. And maybe we can draw something on that wall. Yes, we can. A crying face. Paint drips like tears. Gravity pulls everything down. It's only natural. That is a rather negative picture to paint. However, Ruby doesn't seem to be the most positive person. Why that is, we don't know. We can tell that she walks with a leg brace. We don't know how she got it, but... I don't know. Maybe something bad happened to her. Who can say? But what I was trying to say before I got distracted. Well, some people like to claim that this kind of game is not a real video game, as there is no real challenge to be overcome. And if you look at the classic definition of the word game, I guess they have a point. However, that begs the question of what else it is. Know what I mean? And in that context, hey, there is a chest. How about that? Nope, can't do anything with it. Well, that explains that. So what I was about to say. What I think this kind of game is, and other games of its kind, like your Dear Esthers and your Stanley Parables and your The Journeys and your Gone Homes, I think in a way are very much the essence of what a video game at its most basic is. And that is not so much... Okay, the bathtub doesn't concern us. And that is not so much a game in a classic sense as a sort of immersive experience into a story that is very much to be explored by itself. And while I think that, well, personally I prefer the kind of video games that manage to connect story and gameplay in a way that actually does provide a sort of challenge and a catharsis of overcoming that challenge, I think there is also a certain value to something that is just to be treated as just a story to be experienced. How about it, Ruin? Had anything to do with it? No, doesn't really seem like it. I don't really want to miss anything. So anyway, this is why I personally see some appeal in this kind of game. I can absolutely understand people who don't get me wrong. This is the field of flowers where in the last episode we danced with. Ginger? Yeah, I think so. A scarecrow. And no birds. Efficient. I wish I had one like that to keep the idiots away. So maybe she suffered from some harassment. As I believe everyone does at some point. Yeah, let's take the pumpkin head of the scarecrow. I think that's quite appropriate, after all, Halloween is approaching. If you give me your head, you will please me so much. You will please me so much more. From a silver platter, I shall eat you. One might be inclined to claim that this sounds a bit sinister. Okay. I think so far we have found plenty of things in here. And here we are back at the lake. So I believe that this is a pretty good point to make a cut until I happen upon something else that might turn out to be interesting. Though actually maybe we don't have to wait for that long. There seems to be something here. A broken down fence. But nothing to interact with. Okay. So as I said, I'm going to make a cut here. See you in a minute. How about that? We found a television. Let's have a look at it. It seems to be just static on there, but maybe there is more to it. Oh, come on, there is bound to be. Okay. So the question this begs is something going to happen now, or are we just going to stare onto the empty screen? Well, it doesn't seem like there is anything else we can do with it. So maybe we should move on to the playground. I don't think we have been here before, though I might in fact be wrong. Actually, yes, I think I was. So here we are. There is such beauty in decay. Rust is lovelier than paint. Though I doubt old age will happen to me. Well, it does happen to everybody. Though I kinda see where she is coming from. I see why she might find rust more appealing than paint. I think there is something very organic to rust, something that seems more alive than just cold, clean steel. Let's sit down on this bench. I believe that's enough. The camera also focused on a two-headed teddy bear. Can we pick it up? Yes, we can. Do we get a comment on it? I think we will. Two heads on one bear. Makes sense to me. I'm afraid it doesn't to me, but that's just me. There also seems to be a man here who was dragging something with him just a few moments ago, which does seem rather suspicious. But he doesn't have much of an interest in us, as it seems. So maybe we take a look at what he was dragging behind him. I'm sure it's something perfectly innocent. It's gotta be. See? It's just a... It's just a rolled up carpet. What more could it be? I'm sure that this is a perfectly nice person. No one who could ever be dangerous to us. And we've already heard that. We've been over this. So what else is there on this playground before we approach this mysterious blonde stranger? Well, we can climb up there if we want to, or maybe we can't. I must be getting old. It's about time. I wouldn't say so. As I said, she's 15 years old. I don't think that's necessarily something for her to worry about. So, handsome stranger, what are you doing here? Mind if I join you? He does not seem to mind. Quite the opposite, actually. Offering us a cigarette. And what could be wrong about sharing a cigarette with a stranger? And I'm sure that then nothing bad happened. And hey, we even got the rain that she was wishing for. So, let's pick ourselves up. And once again journey into grandmother's house. Okay, one thing that I think deserves to be said at this point. It is sort of a very common idea among people analyzing this game, and there have been a few, that it in general is about rape. Personally, I don't really agree with that. What I think this game as a connecting theme is about is the loss of innocence, viewed from the perspective of 6 different women at 6 different ages. However, what I will say is that I am fairly positive that at the very least Ruby's story here is actually about rape. As you may or may not have picked up on, that is just something to be mentioned at this point. But for now, we are just going to enter Grandmother's house again. I wouldn't necessarily say that what we are going to find there will be explanations. But it might at the very least give us a sort of idea, I'm sorry, of some of the other motifs this game wants to touch on with Ruby. So once again we slowly approach the door. And I will admit it does get kind of old after the fourth time. But then I'm someone who can appreciate a slow-paced game. Or at the very least I'm someone who is not necessarily actively angry at the game when it takes its time. At the very least not if it's this kind of game. So we will just sit through it, I suppose. And enter Grandmother's house once again. So what do we have here, except for another loading screen? Just the regular old room we know. Our friend, the two-headed teddy bear, seems to serve as a little piece of decoration here. The knife that we found laying on the table, and something in the fridge, though it is very hard to make out what it is. So, well, you know, I can't tell you. Once again we will make our way upstairs. The basic layout of the house looks quite similar for basically all of our player protagonists. Though there are of course some differences. Ruby seems to be more shrouded in darkness than that of some of the other girls. But that would only make sense, because even her story seemed to be darker than that of the other ones we've seen so far. More twisted, more confusing and more intimidating even. With lots of naked machinery and loud industrial noises. I think in Silent Hill these were quite often used to imply, very literally, penetration. And in fact, sometimes without much subtlety. And I think it is quite similar in this game, as it does take more than just a few cues from Silent Hill. Especially this part. And here we have it. A bed used as a, well, what seems to be a torture device. And the girl broken into fragments. I think that this side of the story is one of the most blatant about its underlying motifs. So, well, I would say it doesn't leave too much to the imagination. So we can call this a success as well. And I am your German snob, and this is Let's Play The Path. And I hope you will join me again next time for another episode. And until then, well, have a good time, enjoy yourself, and ciao.